Welcome back. In this video, we're going to set up our edit screen as I showed earlier, which is this little here. So basically saying how an edit list item should look like while we're editing it. And you can see we basically just have a row, which then contains a column, which then next to it has, well, which has two text fields or two texts. And then we have the button here. So this is actually editable, both of them. So they are not going to just be text, but they're going to be text fields. And the ones that I'm going to use here are not going to be the outlined text fields. I'm going to use the basic text fields. They don't have an outline surrounding them, so they're slightly different. So let's go ahead and try and build that. Therefore, we're going to create a new composable. So we have our shopping list item composable. And now let's go ahead and create a new composable, which I'm going to call ShoppingItemEditor. Now it needs an item of type shopping list. Now it recommended shopping item to me of type shopping item. Then we need to say what should happen once we are done editing. So on edit complete, and here comes a lambda expression again. So I'm going to say I want to have a string and an int, and I'm not going to return anything. So this is another lambda expression here. So you see we're using them every now and again. So we're basically saying when you use this composable, you need to pass me the item that you want me to edit. And then you also need to pass the string and the int to me that you want me to edit so that I can then edit those. Basically saying the name of the item as well as the quantity of the item. And I'm just going to do my magic with it, and I'm not going to return anything, but I'm going to update it inside of your list item. So let's go ahead and set up what we need. So we need to know what the edited name is going to be, and it's going to be by remember, and here mutable state of item.name. So we're saying the item, the shopping item that you're passing to me, I'm going to set the name as the default value for the edited item. And then whatever we're entering into the field will be overwritten. So into this field here, this top field will override this edited name. And now we need to also have the edited quantity. And also we need to know whether we are currently editing or not. So I'm going to add edited quantity by remember, and this will contain the quantity, not the item name. And then finally, well, actually, we also need to make a string out of it because the edited quantity, so this field in our user interface, as you know, is of type string. It's not really a number, right? That's a limitation that we have. So we need to make sure that whatever we pass in here and play around with is also going to be of type string. So we're taking the quantity, which is an integer. So if you hover over, you will see quantity is of type int, but we need to convert it into a string. So that's what we're doing with this toString method. And now finally, we need an isEditing Boolean, which will also be by remember. So we're using a state again, and mutable state of. Now, do you recall what properties our shopping item had? Well, it has the name, the quantity, and isEditing. So we're finally going to use isEditing. So here I'm going to say item.isEditing is going to be the default value for our isEditing property for our shopping item editor composable. So now what's the content of our shopping item composable? Well, it's going to be a row. As I said earlier, we want to have a row, and I'm going to pass a modifier in here. Modifier. You see, I'm rushing over things that we have done multiple times already because I really don't want to waste your time with them. So again, it should fill the entire width. I'm going to add a background here, and this time I'm going to use this thing called color.white. So basically the background needs a color, okay? And the color that I'm going to use is from color dot row, which is a companion object. The thing is, it contains a bunch of colors that we can use. And then this row needs a content, otherwise the error will be maintained. So another thing that I want to modify for our row is going to be that it will have padding. So I'm going to add 8 density pixels of padding to it so that it's not super close to other UI elements. And finally, I want items to be spaced horizontally. So there is this horizontal arrangement, and it has this arrangement dot space evenly. So we have seen space, where is it? Space between, which is this thing here, where the two items are pushed aside, so there's enough or a lot of space in between. But now what we're going to do, as we have multiple items, we're going to use space evenly. We want items to be spaced evenly next to each other, so to speak. So with the same distance to each other as other items. So then inside of this row, we're gonna have a column. Now this column is basically these two items should be put into this column. Okay, so we have the the column with the two items, and then we have the save button. So here I'm going to use basic text field. I already warned you that we're going to use this. So basically you can create a basic text field with a few values, or a few variables. So first of all, you need to say what the value of it is. I'm going to say this one is going to be the edited name. Then you need to say what should happen when the value of that basic text field is changing. So on value change. And by the way, the IDE doesn't help me because I need to import basic text field. Now it should help me, I believe. So yeah, there we are. The error disappeared. And now what I want to say is I just want to set the edited name to be it. So again, whenever we change a text field, this on value change will contain it, a variable, which we will then assign to our variable edited name. We've done it multiple times with this it, but I just wanted to point that out again. And then I want to make sure that this is going to just accept one line. Okay, so the single line parameter is going to be set to true. And then finally, I'm going to modify how this thing is going to look like. And I'm just going to say modifier dot wrap content size. So what that will do is it will make sure that it only takes the space that it really needs. Everything else it will not take. So that's what this wrap content size does. It says only take as much space as the items that are inside of you actually need. So in this case, only be as wide as the text that will be inside of you. So if the text is 5 characters wide, then this basic text field will only be 5 characters wide plus this padding of 8 density pixels. So that's our edit name text field. And now let's do the same thing for our edit quantity. So here edit Q quantity, and here we also want to override edit quantity with whatever it is. We're going to use the same settings otherwise. So that is our column. Okay, that is these two text fields. And then we have this save button next to it, which is still inside of this row that we had earlier. Okay, so everything is still inside of the row, which starts here and ends here. So we can put it in between or inside of it, and just after the column. That's where we're gonna add the button, not button. And this button is going to have an on-click event, which we need to make sure we have, and it needs to have a content, which I'm just gonna set to save, because that's, well, with a capital S maybe, like so, because that's what, if we look at it, that's what this button says, save. So what should happen once we click on the button save? Well, first of all, we're going to say editing is done. So we're going to set the editing to false. And then we're going to call the onEditComplete function. We're going to pass the name and the quantity, but the quantity as an integer, so to int or null. And then we're going to use the Elvis operator again to say the default value, if it is null, we want the default value to be 1. So basically what we're saying here is if you enter some gibberish or some other characters, we're just going to jump to the default of 1. That's what this here says. So we're trying to convert your text, the edited quantity, which is of type string, into an integer. And if the integer is a number, then it's going to be an int. And otherwise, if it's null, so or null, then we're going to say convert that into being a 1. So the quantity will be 1 if we enter some crap in there. So that's pretty much the shopping item editor. And while I would like to keep going and actually call this function, you can see we need to pass a lot of details to it. So that's why I'm going to say, or I would say, let's do that in the next video. All right. So see you there.